How are you, Dan?
Good, thanks, John. Yeah, what a night for Blues fans. I don't think many people saw that first half coming. 34-0, a record for a first half in a State of Origin game. Just an extraordinary performance. Full credit to Michael Maguire and the New South Wales Blues.
And Latrell Mitchell.
Yeah, absolutely. Had a great game.
All the lead up was about Latrell Mitchell. I was watching it just going like every single news article, press conference, everything that was about Latrell Mitchell. Not because of him. It was just like they just kept going on and on about it. And I was in the lead up. I was just watching it going, man, what if he has a quiet but average game? It was like, and he had a great game, but it was he wasn't the pivotal piece of the puzzle in any way. Like actually, Mitchell Moses got a well-deserved man of the match. It was just like, we always talk about Latrell Mitchell on this podcast, but so we're kind of guilty of the same thing. But it's kind of bizarre to me actually. This is what I thought in the lead up in the last week and a half since he's been named. It is kind of bizarre that State of Origin became about Latrell Mitchell. What is it about the guy that makes him the one person that everyone always talks about?
Yeah, he's certainly a headline maker, that's for sure. Set up that Blues second try with that flick pass for Brian To'o. Scored his team's fifth try, and he also manhandled Reece Walsh.
That was so funny.
And I think sometimes in games, plays symbolise the night. And I thought Latrell Mitchell manhandling Reece Walsh, that was a metaphor for the whole evening. That summarised the evening very
nicely. I made a comment on the second Brian To'o's second try that came off the kick through the line. And Latrell and Brian To'o were both chasing it. Latrell pulled up to let To'o actually make the try. I was like that. I messaged in my WhatsApp group, one of my WhatsApp groups at the time, like, haven't seen that all year. Latrell Mitchell putting the team first. Because it was like, I thought, that Reece Walsh, also was so funny. It didn't matter who it was, and not that it was Reece Walsh. It didn't matter who it was. It was just so funny the way he just ragdolled Reece Walsh. The Latrell Mitchell pulling up to let Brian To'o have the try simply because To'o was closer and it was a better play, not bothering you. I think that really embodied everything about the Blues last night. They were just with this cohesive unit. When the match first opened and Zach Lomax was getting his first few runs were just Queensland manhandled him backwards, pushed him back. He lost meters in every hit up. I was like, Queensland's here to play. And then after, I think, his third run, he just sparked up. And I was like, oh, Zach Lomax is on fire.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think he got a double Lomax. Yeah.
Yeah. And he missed two conversions. That was funny because he misses... Guy can't convert his own tries. That's the problem. Yeah. He can't convert from the side that he plays on. So... missed a couple of conversions, but got a bunch as well. So he got
kick 5 from 7. Double for Lomax, double for Brian To'o, Liam Martin, Latrell, as we said, and Dylan Edwards also going over 7 tries to 3 for the Blues. And look, they really dominated in a lot of key categories. Completions, the Blues had 91%, 33 from 36. The Maroons had 78%, 30 from 38. So this idea that New South Wales just had all the ball, well, hang on, Queensland had more sets of 6 at the end of the night. So the idea that New South Wales only won because they had all the ball, well, no, that's not right. They had 54% to 46, but they only had more there because they held on to it better. Queensland had more sets of 6, so... the Blues had 16 offloads to 4. The Blues had 180 kick return metres to 137. The Blues had 600, you mentioned Mitchell Moses before. The Blues had 633 kick metres to 490. The Maroons had 54 missed tackles to 23. The Maroons had 28 ineffective tackles to 6. So the Blues just owning the Maroons in all the key categories last night.
Yeah, and no, they had plenty of ball. They just sucked with the ball. But the first half, possession stats were ridiculous, like 68% New South Wales. And then the second half, the possession stats were ridiculous, like 68% Queensland.
Yeah. I mean, it evened out again. The Blues had 54%, the Maroons had 46%. But as I said, the Maroons had 38 sets of 6. The Blues had 36 sets. So the only reason the Blues had more possession was because they held on to the ball. The Maroons had more opportunities with the ball. They had 2 more sets of 6. So there was a couple of my friends were texting me during the game saying, the Blues have just got all the ball. Well, by the end of the night, the Maroons had more sets of 6.
So that's what I was discussing in the first half. But in the second half, get to Ashley Klein, and again, I think he had the worst, most shocking game.
We'll get to those sin binnings later.
It was like he evened it up because, in the first half, the Blues had a crap ton of possession. It was seriously at one point something like 68%, right? And it was like 20 minutes in, it was like that. But in the second half, when it was 20 minutes in, the Maroons had the same thing, and it was like Ashley Klein, the memes came out during the game. The Daily Cherry Evans talking to Ashley Klein and saying, mate, you need to send one of them off there. We can't beat them 13 on 13. That's what it was like. I remember Craig Gower's first appearance on the podcast, he mentioned that one of the refs' jobs, we were talking about refs then, and one of the refs' jobs was, to make the game flow and make the game good. And I kind of feel like Ashley Klein takes that as he has to control the game in a way to make it even, because Queensland was getting dominated, and then there was a bunch of ridiculous things let go, a bunch of on Dylan Edwards' try, Reece Walsh slapped him across the face, going for to try and prevent him. He slapped him straight across the face. It was a swinging arm slap across the face. Now we know from a few weeks ago with Tom Trbojevic when he got slapped across the face and ended up being a high tackle or something. But that's a penalty in the process of scoring a try, so it's an 8-point try. I don't want a penalty for it, but it was like things like that let go. One of the Queensland tries, Daly Cherry Evans clearly obstructed the opposing player, and they obviously obstructed Mitchell Moses, I think, and they just ignored it. And it just seems like Ashley Klein does this thing where he's like, this team is losing, so I've got to let him.
And another example that was the sin binnings. Now, he thought because he sent Liam Martin to the sin bin that he had to send Pat Carrigan as well. The Liam Martin one was ridiculous for a head pat anyway, but this idea that, if I send one player to the bin, I have to send another one to the bin to be fair. No, you sin bin them based on the offence committed. Yeah. It doesn't... This idea of, I've got to square up the sin binnings to make it 12 on 12, well, that's just ridiculous.
That was nonsense. And it was like, because it came from the couple of plays before where Spencer Leniu ran in, which was, that was good. It showed, that kind of showed, the commitment the New South Wales team had to each other. Leniu ran in to push Daly Cherry Evans because Daly Cherry Evans pushed Stephen Crichton over. And he warned him, go back and tell Spencer not to run in and blah, 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 blah. And then the outcome of that warning is, basically, he didn't say, but the outcome of that warning is the next time someone is the third man in, they're going to get sin binned. And Carrigan was the third man in. So he should have got sin binned. Fair call. Liam Martin getting sin binned, and he's Ashley Klein saying, leave it to us. Don't take it into your own hands. Don't take what into your own hands? There was no foul play. There was nothing wrong with that. It was just a bit of banter. And Liam Martin gets sin binned for patting a guy on the head, and then Carrigan runs in. They just had a warning. Don't be the third man in. Third man in. Fair sin binning. Right?
Very convenient to make sure you sin bin one player from each team. Very convenient.
Absolutely.
And you can't help but think, well, he's not sin binning them for the offence committed. He just doesn't want to get in trouble. If I sin bin one from each side, I'll be fine. I won't get in trouble. I won't cop any heat from the coaches after the game. That's all it is.
Yeah, and
all the fans after the game.
There is absolutely no reason to sin bin Liam Martin. There were other sin-binnable offences in the game based on consistency, right? So the lifting tackle earlier in the game, I think it was Latrell Mitchell. I can't remember whether there was a lifting tackle earlier in the game, which blew a penalty and got put on report. Now, I don't think that was a sin-binning offence, but based on last week, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, if you watch that in the Titans, which was much less. Roger Tuivasa-Sheck got sin-binned. So consistency dictates that the lifting tackle should have been sin-binned as well, because it was much worse than the Roger Tuivasa-Sheck one. Now, there's video on the internet now. You can hear Casey Badger is the video ref that calls for the sin-bin, and it's absolutely ridiculous because Roger Tuivasa-Sheck lifts, and she clearly says, now there's no danger in the air. When after the player has hit the ground, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck then rolls him. And then she said, and she was the one who said, you're going to have to sin bin him. So if that's a sin bin, then the lifting tackle later, and that was the New South Wales player, should have been a sin bin. Latrell Mitchell doing the Suoliti later in the game, that's a send-off. If the Suoliti...
He's avoided suspension for that high shot on Murray Taulagi.
Yeah, that one. That was
So he's escaped that one with just a fine. I think it's a grade 1 careless high tackle charge, and he'll just be fine.
So it was just a quick penalty and put on report, and let's go back to the game. That, we discussed this after the Suoliti one. The only reason that happened is because the player he hit got up.
Yeah. If Taulagi goes down injured there,
Latrell
goes to the bin or is sent off.
Yeah, well,
this is ridiculous.
It was much the same as the Suoliti tackle. Actually, I'm sure we might arrange a cut later from our social media where we'll do a cut of the Suoliti tackle versus the Latrell Mitchell one, because Latrell Mitchell launched him. The Queensland player jumped in the air, and if he hadn't jumped, Latrell would have hit him across the chest. But because he jumped, and in the process of jumping, of course, his knees buckle to land, so he drops lower, and Latrell Mitchell shoulders him in the face. Doesn't knock him out, and he gets up and runs away. So, we got a penalty and off we go. If he had knocked him out, would it have been a send-off?
Yeah. Yeah, look, I want to see Adam G as the replace Ashley Klein for that decider.
100%.
Adam G had a really good game in that grand final last year. And I don't want to see Ashley Klein get the gig for the decider.
He's just terrible. There were so many instances of just absolutely unbelievable. And whoever was in the bunker needs to hang their head as well, because the try that Daly Cherry Evans obstructed Mitchell Moses, it's just old-fashioned obstruction.
Yeah, that was an obstruction. Yeah.
Old-fashioned shepherd, absolutely. Daly Cherry Evans stood in his way, and they're doing this outside shoulder, inside shoulder, whatever shoulder, whatever. Mitchell Moses has turned. To clearly chase. He didn't milk it. He turned to chase, and Daly Cherry Evans standing in his way, and they allow the try because you've got to get a square up.
Yeah, that's all about the square ups. There was a bit of talk about that late flurry from the Maroons, those 3 tries in 14 minutes there, and I heard Brad Fittler, and I get it. Brad Fittler's played State of Origin. Brad Fittler's coached State of Origin. I haven't. Okay, I get it. But I didn't get it at the end. How he said, the Blues have really got to make sure they score the last try in the last 5 minutes here. This is momentum going into Game 3. No. Game 3 is in 3 weeks. What happens in the last 5 minutes of Game 2, it means nothing compared to Game 3. 3 weeks is a long time. It'll be played in Brisbane. That game last night was in Melbourne. This idea that, you take something into Game 3. No, you don't. It's a new game and it's in 3 weeks' time.
They asked him. And that was the thing, nothing happened in the last 5 minutes. So does that mean nothing's going to happen in the next game? Queensland did nothing.
I just don't understand that. Are they trying to keep people watching the game, Channel 9, by saying that, they really need to make sure they score the last try? No, they don't, Brad. They were ahead they won 38-18. They won by 20 points.
And they got that, of course they kept talking about it during, Queensland can take something away in that they won the second half by 18-4. I hate that so much. It
drives you mad.
There is a numerical assessment you can do of the game.
The game was over at halftime. It was 34-0 at halftime. It was a record score for a State of Origin game at halftime.
It was the first time New South Wales has scored first in a long time.
What happened in the second half was irrelevant. Regardless of whatever happens in the decider in 3 weeks' time in Brisbane, nobody is going to be saying, Oh, I'll tell you what, Queensland, they won that decider because they had that really good second half in Game 2 in Melbourne.
Well, a good 14 minutes.
And no one's going to be... And if New South Wales win the decider, no one's going to be saying, oh, I really think they won it because of that first half they had in Melbourne. No, if New South Wales win in Brisbane, it'll be because of what they do in Brisbane, not because of what happened in Melbourne.
If Queensland win, it's because New South Wales didn't score in the last 5 minutes of Game 2.
Come on. It just drives you
mad. The
mad.
English cricket team blaming the stumping of Johnny's Bairstow.
Come on, the game's... It's human nature. The goal is achieved.
Yeah.
The game was over at halftime. All right, Queensland won the second half 18-4, but who cares?
It's irrelevant. There's already a numerical value you can assign to the game, 38-18. I don't think there was a bad New South Wales player as well. That was one of the things that was Mitchell Moses had a 10 out of 10 performance. His kicking, his running, his defence, everything about it. Like, it was just phenomenal. It was the best. I think Andrew John said in the commentary, this is the best game he's ever had.
Yeah.
And it really was. Like, it was so amazing.
And he was man of the match, deservedly so.
As you're halfway through three-quarters of the way through the first half, one of the things we were chatting about in one of my groups was, man, I don't even know who you could name as man of the match at this point. Because everyone in the back line, like Latrell Mitchell's first run, ridiculous. Yeah. Like, oh my God. The line that Liam Martin ran to score his try, that's a man of the match moment right there. He was running outside in. Slow it down to like the slow motion. As the ball is passed, he changes his line so he's running inside out. As the ball is passed and he's stepping. He's midway through a step. He changed the line and ran outside in to score. Ridiculous. That's just... the Stephen Crichton was phenomenal. Every Bulldogs fan sitting there going, "Oh yeah, oh yeah." Jerome Luai's defense. Jerome Luai forcing those errors on. I can't remember the guy's name, and Mitchell Moses forcing the errors twice on Tom Dearden, same tackle twice. Just absolutely amazing. And then all the forwards were crazy. One thing I did notice was Jake Travojevic was kept on the bench after.
Yeah, I think he only played 25 minutes.
It was 25 minutes, and then he was taken off, and then he came back 8 minutes to go played the last 8 minutes.
Not much more than 25.
Yeah, when the game was over. So 30, he played a total of 33. I checked that this morning because I was actually sitting there last night watching it. And going, man, haven't seen Travojevic for a while. And then he did a hit up. And I was like, oh, okay. Has he been here this whole time? So then I looked up and I was like, oh, okay. So it was bizarre. Like, the bench rotation was kind of weird as well overall because, I know Connor Watson, he came on with, I think, 17 minutes to go. Reece Robson had a phenomenal game in both defence and attack too. So Connor Watson came on with 17 minutes to go. He was good, but what's he going to do? He can't take anything. It's not like when Nico Hines came on and, it was a waste of time and everything.
But it's probably a good time to make your debut. No pressure.
I love his first touch of the ball was a quick dart out of dummy half.
Yeah.
Who's the Manly guy, Alakuatu? He played small minutes, only came on late. It was kind of the whole bench
rotation. I'll check his number of minutes.
Was really weird to me.
I'll check this.
I don't know what Michael Maguire's doing with the bench. I mean, it worked. You can't complain about it.
Yeah, you're right. Jake Trbojevic did play 33 minutes. Ola Kawatu just 18 minutes.
Yeah,
and Connor Watson played 17 minutes.
Yeah, it was like Ola Kawatu came on for 18 minutes. It was Spencer Leniu didn't play many minutes, right? Like
26 minutes.
26, but his 26 minutes was ridiculously impactful.
Yeah. Had a really good game.
But so the bench players are not. Well, Jake Travojevic is going to the bench and someone's coming on and staying on the field for the whole time, and then the other bench players aren't getting much. Obviously,
Isaiah Yeo played 47 minutes off the bench. Jake Trbojevic 33 minutes starting. So
it's bizarre, but you can't say anything about it because
no, I mean they did their job. You can't question a winning team, that's for sure. So Mitchell Moses, that's 4 try assists. That's the equal most for any player in an Origin match, tying with Brad Fittler in Game 3 2000. New South Wales completed 21 of 22 sets in the first half at 92%. The Maroons had just 12 sets in the opening half. So that's what we talked about, of that possession really going in the Blues' favour in the first half. That crowd of 90,084 people at the MCG is the second biggest crowd in Origin history. The Blues had 39 tackle breaks to 21 for the night. Another damning statistic. The Blues have now won 5 of the 6 Origin games played at the MCG. So the MCG is a good neutral venue for New South Wales. They're getting good results there. As I said, Latrell escaping with just a fine for that tackle. Dylan Edwards, a really good debut for him. 19 runs for 185 metres and 6 tackle breaks.
His first run was amazing, and then he consistently did that. He had that error that, of course, is going to be a highlight reel forever, where he dropped the ball on the recovery, but and it did let in a try on the next set. But he made up for it by scoring that awesome solo try. Well, that was a ridiculous sequence of play as well. Like, it was just, I think it went, it was Moses to Luai to somebody to Edwards, and just seriously, if they can take that up to Queensland, they can win.
Yeah. That is an if, isn't it? I guess that's the thing. I mean, you're giving New South Wales as good a chance as they've ever had of winning a decider in Brisbane in this game coming up. I mentioned the stat when we had Mitchell Pearce on a little while ago. New South Wales has won just 2 of 13 series deciders in Brisbane. And this is the thing, it was a great performance by New South Wales last night, but it's very easy for us to sit here on the morning after that game and say, New South Wales will win Game 3. 3 weeks is a long way away. Suncorp Stadium's a different venue, it's a different game. There will be different teams. There'll be some changes will have to be made. Queensland will decide to make changes. New South Wales may have to make some forced changes. It's a different game at Suncorp. The weather's warmer. That'll favour Queensland. The Melbourne cold would have helped New South Wales. It would have suited them better than it would suit Queensland. Sydney winter weather is a lot similar to Melbourne winter weather than Brisbane winter weather is. A night game in Melbourne's like a wet weather game. A night game in Brisbane is like a day game. It's a different game up there.
It started raining the second that the kickoff happened as well.
Yeah, Queensland will be a lot more confident throwing the ball around up there than they would have been at the MCG. And you'll have 52,000 Queenslanders screaming at the referee. So good luck winning the penalty count or the 6 again count with 52,000 Queenslanders screaming at the referee.
The penalties last night were first 4 for New South Wales, next 7 for Queensland. Those kind of stats really, it makes me wonder, it's just so bizarre. That's a bizarre thing to happen. Like, New South Wales naughty for 4 times.
Well, you have to think the referee checks their numbers at half time.
Queensland's naughty 4 times in a row, and then New South Wales is naughty 7 times in a row. It's just bizarre. And there was a ruck infringement late in the game as well when Queensland were attacking the line. That was not a ruck infringement. It was just ridiculous. Again, I think Ash, that was I love the game. The football was awesome, but my biggest takeaway was how much Ashley Klein involved himself in the game and evens the thing out. He really, those memes that come out, like I said, memes came out during the game. During the game. People were sitting there going, well, this is ridiculous. I got to make a meme of this. It's just... That was a terrible refereeing performance. Just another one to back up that terrible refereeing performance in Game 1. And they're obviously going to give him Game 3. They won't change that. But I just don't want to see him ever refereeing an important game ever again.
Yeah, I'd really want to see Adam G get the call up, but as you say, I don't think it's going to happen. So New South Wales has only ever won 2 deciders in Brisbane in 1994 and 2005 since Origin started way back in 1980. And of the 43 Origin series since 1982, because in 80 and 81 it was just a one-off game. So of the 43 Origin series since 1982, this will be the 23rd to go to a decider.
It's a scary thought, if New South Wales everyone can stay fit and they can take the same team up and they can continue it.
They'll give themselves their best chance, but again, it's easy on the morning after that game to sit here and go, New South Wales will win game 3. 3 weeks is a long time. There'll be new teams. It's a new venue. Playing Queensland in Brisbane is a different ball game to playing Queensland in Melbourne. And the record shows that. As I said, New South Wales have won 5 out of 6 Origin games at the MCG. New South Wales have only won 2 of 13 deciders in Brisbane. So the numbers really tell the story.
Yeah, it's like when they've over the last 10 years, Queensland have wrapped up the game in the series in game 1 and 2, and then New South Wales wins game 3, and everyone goes, we're going to win it next year now. No. Next year's a very different thing.
And next year, that's a whole other realm, like another 12 months away.
It's a very different thing.
I think people get a bit, the way I see Origin games is it's just a one-off. Each Origin game is a one-off occasion.
100%.
And game 1, again, this series is evidence of it. Queensland blew New South Wales out of the water in game 1. New South Wales blew Queensland out of the water in game 2. Game 2's result had nothing to do with game 1. And I think that tells a story. It'll be the same in game 3. The result, whichever way it goes in game 3, will have nothing to do with what happened in game 1 or game 2.
I really wonder if the winning team will score 38 points as well, because both games have been
that's about the only similarity, isn't it?
It was a bit weird when I saw that one this morning.
That's the only commonality from game 1 and 2. The winning team scored 38 points.
It was amazing. Reece Walsh got basically... It was a little bit weird, like how quiet he was. He did some really good things as well, right? Like he set up a try, I believe.
Took just one run for 5 metres in the first half. Yeah. I know they had no ball, but come on. I mean...
Well, New South Wales was getting to the end of their sets and kicking. So Reece Walsh had the potential to get the ball. That's the thing, right?
One of his kickoffs went out on the full as well.
That was Zach Lomax's beautiful.
Yeah, but he still gave him that opportunity, right?
Beautiful. Yeah. Somebody knows the rules there. Like, I loved it. I was like, wow.
Yeah. So he only made 36 metres for the night, Reece Walsh. And we talked about how Latrell Mitchell just ragdolled him.
That was awesome. That's going to highlight for the rest of their lives. That's going to be used in the end.
We have changed our tune on Latrell on this podcast.
Well, that's
fair.
That's the thing, man.
We criticised him when criticism was due, and now we're giving credit because credit's due.
I think his performance last night, and also over the last 2 weeks, mind you, shows that all the criticism prior to that was justified. Because every single time...
This shows what he can do
every time anybody talks about Latrell, and we've talked about that before, they always preempt it with, we know what he can do. His potential to be the best player, and blah, 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 blah. But, and then, here's the thing. And now you know what he can do. But I think what last night showed is that guy is the absolute best centre in the world, and they should stop trying to make him a fullback. Seriously. You think even the Rabbitohs? Yeah, even the Rabbitohs. He is the absolute best centre in the world. There was some...
It is a lot of money to pay a centre, though, isn't it?
But they had, leading up to the game, people were questioning whether he'd even, remember how to defend and stuff like that at centre. All right? Fell into it. No issues. And especially when both teams were down to 12 men... The other side of the field, Queensland continually were going short side, even to the point where they would have only a few metres to the side, and there would only be enough room for one player. They would go short side, and we're gaining a crap ton of metres up Zach Lomax and Stephen Crichton's side, right? A crap ton. They were gaining, just eating up metres, play after play after play in a set would be short side, and it was just getting smaller. The short side was getting smaller, and smaller, and I was still gaining meters. They didn't try that. They didn't try that up Latrell's side. That was. I think they were scared of him after what he was doing to them. So I really think that just really highlighted that he's the best center in the world, and he's a superstar player, but an average fullback.
Tell you what, if he's the best centre in the world, Stephen Crichton's not too far behind.
He'd be
him,
number 2
at the moment.
And that's a centre pairing that you want for Australia.
I guess we'll see what happens in Game 3 on that one. I'd judge it on the whole Origin series. But at this stage, if you were to name the Australian team today, they'd be the centre pairing.
Who are the other centres, I can't even remember who the centres for Queensland are because they got so dominated.
Val Holmes and Hamiso Tabuai.
Yeah, that was... sorry. So the Hammer's got to be somewhere. The Val Holmes versus Latrell Mitchell was the much talked about battle, and I forgot the Val Holmes played. Latrell Mitchell kept him completely shut up. So yeah, they dominated Reece Walsh. They obviously identified that's a key. They had that rushing defence that they would run up into the line, and it did open up some gaps at some points. But the scramble, when they were down to 12 and Queensland went for that try, and it was 5 New South Wales jerseys just around them. It was beautiful rushing defence, but obviously planned for it as well. So well done, and well done in keeping Reece Walsh quiet.
I thought Harry Grant was disappointing as well from Queensland. I thought he didn't add much to the game. Thought he was well below his best.
I think Ben Hunt as well.
Harry Grant played 42 minutes, finished with just 6 metres and 4 missed tackles. So disappointing showing from Harry Grant.
That's that combination that I've talked about as the most fearing bit for me, was the combination of Ben Hunt and Harry Grant. But New South Wales managed to keep both of them quiet as well.
Yeah, Ben Hunt took no runs in his 40 minutes on the field. 2 missed tackles. Disappointing.
Disappointing. The first game where Ben Hunt, he scored a double and set up a try or something in the first game. Did he score a double? Or he set up 2 tries and scored one? I don't know. He was one of the best players on the field in game 1. And, yeah, just shut down in game 2. I think Harry Grant got that cut on his head.
He did, yeah.
That was horrifying.
Yeah, he did.
Look at the blood.
Had to finish the game with headgear, but that's pretty much all we sort of noticed him.
Yeah,
for, really.
That was the highlight of his thing. Oh God! I was watching with my kids.
Can be disappointed. Was it a case? Were Queensland guilty of being too relaxed? Going, look, we've got the decider at Suncorp up our sleeve if it goes wrong here, because they certainly played like a team who just didn't show up.
I think New South Wales executed the defensive plan that they had from game 1 properly without getting someone sent off, which shut down all of the weapons that Queensland had. Because, they had that rushing defence, which they had in game 1, which resulted in the Suoli'i send-off. Same kind of tactic. And I think it was it set the New South Wales down a path where they could shut down Queensland. And it was when they went down to 12 men, New South Wales went down to 12 men, even though it was 12 on 12, that rushing defence became a problem and left massive gaps. And so, look, Liam Martin, he shouldn't have been sin binned. That was ridiculous. When he came back from his sin bin, he was making he got taken off late in the game, I believe, because, there was a point where he gave away a penalty off a kick where he... I can't remember what it was for, but it was moved back down the thing. So, and then Queensland scored came close to scoring after he came back on the field. So he had to get taken off because I think he took that aggression and aggressive defence too far as well. And that's the danger of the New South Wales tactic. You can end up with a send off after 7 minutes, or you can end up giving away penalties because they're doing that rushing hard defence where they're just smashing people, and it can go wrong so easily. I mean, again, it happened to Latrell Mitchell as well. So it's I think that's more what it was. New South Wales defence kept Queensland quiet, but there is a very fine line of danger. And so when they go up and do game 3, if they make a mistake like that, you can get a send off in 7 minutes, and the game will be over.
Yeah. This dilemma we were talking about with Nathan Cleary, it's not going to be an issue now because Cleary's not going to get back now until July 21, the Panthers game on July 21, and that's days after the decider on July 17. So what was looking like could have been a dilemma had Cleary played this week and next week, potentially. It's not going to be an issue now, and that would have been a dilemma given how well Mitchell Moses played last night, man of the match. That would have been really interesting had Cleary come back this week and got 2 games under his belt. But as I say, now that's not an issue because Cleary's not going to be back before that decider. So that's one headache that Michael Maguire won't have.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what they'll do with Connor Watson as well. I
can't imagine that they'll change a winning team unless they have to, unless they get injuries.
I'm curious to see what would happen if New South Wales wasn't so far up, whether Connor Watson would have even come onto the field and that kind of thing. I'm actually really curious to see that because, he played well, blooded him for New South Wales. But why was he there and what was his purpose? Who knows? I
guess maybe they didn't need him. I mean, they were up 34-0 at half time.
Exactly. But then what would he do if they were down 34-0? You know? What would he have done? Like, it's just such a. It's always weird to have a player like that on the bench. Anyway, so the lead up to, we mentioned it in the after game one. The lead up to game one didn't have much of that New South Wales versus Queensland hate. Mm-hmm. Whereas, thank God, Michael Maguire and Billy Slater brought the hate into Origin 2 with Michael Maguire's hilarious sledge, in which he mentioned...
Yeah, we can sort of jump ahead to that. I think we've covered the other items on the rundown, haven't we? People in glass houses.
Because Billy Slater is, after all, we've talked about it before many times, was while he was playing one of the grubbiest players, and they literally changed rules for him.
Yeah. He used to go in late on players with his feet, with his knees.
He copped a 7-match ban for it was a knee to the head or something like that during his playing career. A 7-match ban. 7 matches is pretty hardcore. He kicked Dave Clemmer in the face, and initially the penalty was going to go against Dave Clemmer for Billy Slater kicking him in the face. They changed the rules so you can't leave with the legs to prevent tries. They literally changed the rule for Billy Slater because he would slide in with his legs and kick people in the face and stuff like that to prevent tries. He shoulder charged when the shoulder charge was banned to prevent a try. I think it was in a grand final, actually. There's a big famous one where he knocked someone out of play. And I reckon most people thought it should have been a penalty try. And yet he was the one criticising Suolii's monstrous hit on Reece Walsh. Glass houses, bro.
Yeah.
But Michael Maguire never mentioned him by name.
No, but he did say, "Oh, you worked it out."
Yeah.
When I was talking about at the press conference. So there's no doubting who he was referring to. One thing I would say though is, we often talk about how Queensland are more passionate than New South Wales, and obviously I still believe that. I mean, one result is not going to change that in my mind, but maybe there's occasions where Queensland's passion gets in the way of them a little bit. And in terms of things like, if we talk about the Suwali hit on Reece Walsh, them thinking that, that New South Wales were deliberately targeting Reece Walsh with foul play. I think that's an example of Queensland's passion just going too far. And maybe they focused too much on that rather than focusing on what they needed to do in game two. And I think that showed last night. See, that's the thing. Queensland are more passionate than New South Wales. But sometimes outright talent beats passion. And I think last night that's what happened.
I think that you're right. Their passion gets in the way so much so that they rewrite history.
They see things that are not there.
Yeah, and so there's heaps of examples of it, right? Like I talked about a few weeks ago, Mal Meninga saying Mitchell Pearce would never get picked for a Queensland team because of his misbehaviour when he did something blah blah and was picked for New South Wales. And then you go through the list of like Jonathan Thurston, Darren Lockyer, Sam Thaiday, Darius Boyd, Greg Inglis, all of these guys having big off-field dramas. And then there was one that I remember the other day was they were highly critical of Danny Badiris for retiring from representative duties. And then they kept saying Cameron Smith would never do that. You'd never see a Queenslander retire early. And then Cam Smith retired from representative duties.
Yeah.
Like they like to create these narratives around nonsense. And they're highly hypocritical about it. And I think it's not, a lot of the time not intentional. It's just that, like, yeah, their passion gets in the way, and they get blindly biased and forget what actually happened, and just make up these narratives because they want to, like, you know, they're so passionate about it. They're so blind with passion. They get this huge bias, and just what they say is nonsense. No one targeted Reece Walsh to get him knocked out. Okay, nobody. Nobody. It was an accident. They targeted Reece Walsh to smash him because that's how you keep him quiet. But no one, like, went out to do foul play to him.
That's the thing. We give Billy Slater a lot of credit for his Origin coaching career so far, and it's been very successful. He's won series in 2022 and 2023. But, you know, the flip side is, well, you got to go. He was out-coached by Maguire last night. And I think that the glass houses comment, that was Maguire's way of going, look, you know, of, I guess, putting the heat on Billy a bit. And maybe New South Wales have been guilty of not putting enough heat on him, of just sort of, you know, bowing to him. And Maguire really put a target on Slater's back with that comment. And it seems to have paid off. It was a high-risk strategy. It could have backfired. Queensland could have used it to fuel their, you know, siege mentality, chip on their shoulder against New South Wales, and used it for a positive. But I think Maguire really used that. Maguire and his team used that to their advantage, and that was their way of going, look, you know, we're not having it anymore, Billy. You know, we want to turn the tide against you, and New South Wales certainly did that last night.
Yeah, no, I really want to see a return from New South Wales back to, I think it was last week we discussed, like, nobody could ever say Andrew Johns is not the most passionate New South Wales supporter ever. And you really want to see that more. I think Spencer Leniu kind of embodied that, like, high-powered... Like, I know he does it week in, week out for the Roosters, and he did it for the Panthers before them. But like I said before, things like running in on Daly Cherry Evans straight away, you know, because later on when Carrigan was doing his all-in and everything, Spencer Leniu sauntered over. And I don't think that was to do with, you know, his fear of being sin bin, because we know that guy has no fear of being sin bin. I think that was more to do with the fact that he didn't see any need to protect one of his teammates, you know, and whereas when it was Daly Cherry Evans pushing Crichton over seemingly unprovoked, he had that, like, New South Wales are, you know, we're all brothers here. So that was one of the other things that was really funny. I haven't heard the term grapple tackle in about 10 years. Stephen Crichton did an old-fashioned grapple tackle. But I can't even remember what a grapple tackle is, because all it seemed like was he was squeezing his head, and that happens in every tackle. That's right.
I mean, you had Jonathan Thurston and Nate Miles coming out, speaking out against that Suoli'i tackle from game. Well, that's the thing. I mean, Billy Slater, all right, he might have kept tight-lipped after the game, immediately after the game in the press conference, but his sidekicks came out and spoke out.
Yeah.
It's almost as if he sent his sidekicks out to do his dirty work there.
100%.
And, you know, like, I just, you know, again, we've got to say it. I mean, passion for Queensland has won most of the time, but last night it didn't win. Last night talent beat passion. New South Wales had more talent, and it showed.
Oh yeah, for sure. Speaking of that Suoli'i hit, of course,
yes.
The Channel 9 used the hit as in the ads leading up, and the Maroons officials have had a bit of a tanty about it.
And this is the thing, so Queensland again getting distracted by something that happened 3 weeks ago in Game 1 and not focusing on what they needed to focus on, and that was Game 2 last night.
Yeah, it was... Man, of course they're going to use it, okay? Like, people slammed Dana White for using Conor McGregor throwing a dolly at a bus. But... That's going to get people interested in the game. Yeah, it was horrifying. And Reece Walsh, there's some skill shots of it that are gross. Like Reece Walsh fully in the zombie state from the knockout, like, you know, fitting and his eyes rolled into the back of his head and stuff like that. But that's what they're going to use.
That's what State of Origin is about. That's what it's all been about. That's what gets the fans, or historically has got fans through the gates for State of Origin. That's what, when we were kids, when we were younger... back in the 90s, we would really look forward to going home and watching the game. Why? Because of the unpredictability. Oh, there might be a fight tonight. Yeah. There might be a big hit tonight. So when there's a big hit, they're going to use that to promote the game. That's what the game is built on. That's what it's been built on for so many years.
And how much would you have loved it if Crichton had got up and punched Daly Cherry Evans and sparked an all-in brawl? That would have been amazing.
This QRL chairman, Bruce Hatcher, he came out and said, talking about this ad, he came out and said, and I quote, "I think it's inappropriate and totally wrong." Inappropriate? This is State of Origin. This isn't some kumbaya moment where everyone's standing around in a circle, holding hands and singing songs under a rainbow. This is a game of State of Origin football. And you're saying that it's inappropriate? What is this? Like, is this a schoolyard or something? This is State of Origin football. You don't talk about State of Origin football as being inappropriate.
They're going to use that Latrell Mitchell hit that was a penalty and was put on report, and the Latrell Mitchell manhandling of Reece Walsh in the advertising for Game 3. Guarantee it. They're going to use Daly Cherry Evans pushing Stephen Crichton over. Guarantee it. They're going to use probably Liam Martin giving whoever it was a head rub in Game 3, because that's what will sell Game 3. And, I mean, the criticism helps with the publicity as well. But it's a ridiculous thing to think they wouldn't use that. They used Paul Gallen punching Nate Miles, and that became illegal 2 days after Paul Gallen punched James Miles. They used Eric Groth punching Justin Hodges.
Yeah, well, then Paul Gallen on Nate Miles, that led to the banning of the punch.
Yeah, it got banned, and they still, of course, used it in the lead-up,
Yeah.
Like, it's ridiculous to think they won't use it.
The NRL told Channel 9 it was not in the best interest of the game to use the clip of that hit. Well, I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen the TV ratings yet. If the TV ratings are really good, maybe it was in the best interest of the game.
I think.
How do they determine that it's not in the best interest of the game?
So, because it's that thing where they just they don't know what fans want to see. They really don't. And they're sitting up there. Last time we had Gowie on, he said to us, these people in management, they might have played a few games, but they're just like fans. They don't know what fans want to see. They're not the target audience because they're like rich. They're not the common man who is actually the target audience. Fans actually want to see the Suaalii hit on Reece Walsh, and that will bring people to watch the game because they want to see how Queensland will respond. That's it, So, ridiculous to think that they weren't going to use it, and ridiculous to criticise the use of it. And
ridiculous that they, felt like I know Channel 9 are obviously the rights holders, but that they felt like they could influence the broadcaster like that and say, oh, no, we don't want you to show that. Like, come on.
Well,
what the NRL might want from a PC perspective, we know that they're very PC. They're not as PC as the AFL, but they're getting closer and closer. What they want from a politically correct point of view is different to how the broadcaster are going to promote the game in an ad. I'm sorry, they're not the same thing. And they shouldn't cross over with
Can I also just say, the ad that Channel 9 used was probably seen by the least amount of people over the amount of people who saw that on social media.
This is the thing. If it wasn't highlighted, no one would have known. It's only an issue now because it's been highlighted, because it's been picked apart.
It was all over social media. Trust me, I see it 40 times a day on TikTok, okay? Whether Channel 9 uses it or not. There ain't no, the reason to hide it is because it's not appropriate. Too bad, it's already on the internet. It's never going to be hidden. Yeah. And you're stupid to think that it will be.
An ad for a State of Origin game is not an ad asking 6-year-olds to play rugby league. Yeah, it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing.
Absolutely stupid. And as I said, anyone who thinks it wasn't going to be used is stupid. Anyone who thinks the hardest hits in... there's two types of highlights, right? The big hits... and the tries. That's the two highlights for rugby league. So they're going to use the biggest hits, and that was the biggest hit. And then they're going to use the cool tries. So that's it. You're stupid to think they're not, because that's what actually attracts people to the game. Every time they talk about it going to America and stuff like that, what do they highlight? All these Americans are saying, "Oh, I can't believe you do this without pads." because they're talking about the big hits. All right, so it was the biggest hit in the world. Yes, it was unfortunate Reece Walsh got knocked out, but that's what they were always going to use. And if he hadn't have got knocked out, and it had been just a big solid hit, they still would have used it. Yeah, so you're stupid to think they won't.
So remember that Sonny Bill hit on Joel Clinton in that 2004 prelim final. That was used over and over and over again in ads, and then much later on, the shoulder charge was banned. But at the time, everyone loved it.
Yeah, it was so awesome. It's still awesome to watch all the water.
Yeah, the sweat spraying up into the air.
So cool. And so, lastly, on Origin, Origin is going to stay on Wednesday night.
Yeah. So, the reason for that, I was doing some reading about this. So, the reason it's going to stay on Wednesday night, while we're on the subject of broadcasters, because Channel 9 want to use Sunday, Monday and Tuesday nights for their TV shows. That's why they want their shows on those nights, and they want Origin on Wednesday nights. So TV shows like Married at First Sight. So essentially, State of Origin is going to stay on Wednesday nights because of Married at First Sight.
MasterChef.
Whatever other shows they have.
My 10-year-old and my 8-year-old wanted to watch it with me last night, so we were watching it, and then at around, normally they go to bed at 9:30 or whatever their bedtimes are. And at 9 o'clock, they were getting super tired, as kids do. They actually get tired to your schedule. And then my 10-year-old said, they should really make this game start earlier. Daddy Cherry Evans talked about it starting at 6. That's ridiculous, because if it starts at 6, how the hell is anyone going to get to the game on time? But I think they should.
Maybe 7 o'clock.
7 would be good. Yeah, 7 is a good time.
Yeah, I agree. 8 o'clock is too late, or 10 past 8 by the time kickoff happens. That's too late. Yeah, all the stoppages.
Hard
in
for
the
the kids.
It's 10 o'clock by the time the game's over.
Yeah, they went to bed at 10 past 10.
Yeah.
So for my daughter, her bedtime is 9.
Yeah.
So an hour and 10 minutes, and then for my son, his bedtime is 9:30. So both of them were well over their bedtime. Daughter already fell asleep halfway through the second half.
Yeah, the problem is, again, I'm guessing. I didn't. I went to the pub and watched the game last night, and I only just saw from the start of the game. I didn't see their earlier coverage, but I'm guessing that they came straight off the news at 7 o'clock and went.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. They want over an hour pre-game to get as many ads in as they can. That's what that's about.
No. There's the news is at 6.
So the news finishes at 7. Yeah, and normally they'd have a current affair, but I'm guessing last night they didn't have a current affair.
That's the hardest half hour. The worst half hour of the year is the half hour wait before State of Origin starts, because you have to watch a rerun of 2.5 Men.
Oh, right.
So this coverage starts at 7:30.
Was 2.5 Men on last night?
I don't know if it was 2.5 Men, but there's always some.
So the coverage started at 7:30?
Yes, coverage starts at 7:30, I'm pretty sure. Right, I'm not going to be able to check a backdated TV guide, but that's like the...
Well, the reason for the late kickoff, regardless of what time the coverage starts, is so that Channel 9 can get as many ads in as possible
100%.
Before the game, because when the game's on, they can't get many in because they're waiting for stoppages in play.
Got to go to Video Ref to get the KFC.
Yeah. So that's why the broadcasters love the Video Ref and the stoppages, because they can get the ads in. But yeah, that's the whole reason why the kickoff's late, so the broadcast can get the ads in on the pre-game show. And they don't really care if a lot of people turn off before the end of the game, because they were watching until they went to bed. And that's where the money is. That's where they can charge huge amounts for the advertising.
Well, that's Origin, and we'll have another game and a wrapping up of the series in 3 weeks.
Yes.
Come on, New South Wales. Meanwhile, the Raiders got absolutely poleaxed by the Tigers.
Yes.
Oh, my God. Tigers have won 2 in a row and are now going better than they did last year.
Amazing.
Finally. Yes. Parramatta is last.
Yes.
Because of points differential.
Yes.
And nothing has been said, really.
Yeah, so what I did was I watched NRL 360 on Monday, and I took some notes on it now. This was in review of the last round. These were some of the stories that ran on NRL 360 on Monday night, which was a day after the Raiders got hammered by the Tigers. Now, these were some of the stories. Rumours of unrest as Warriors season unravels. So a story on the Warriors season unravelling. Warriors lost for answers after embarrassing loss. So heavy focus on the Warriors.
Yeah,
I know they got pummeled.
It's horrifying to watch.
But the Raiders got pummeled as well.
Yeah.
Not by the same amount, but they got pummeled as well. Sea Eagles slip out of the 8 as injuries take toll. So a dig at the Sea Eagles on NRL 360. Also, a dig at the Eels, who I know they're last now. I know that because results didn't go their way, but they didn't even play on the weekend. They had the bye, and they copped it on NRL 360. So the Eels have copped it having had a bye, not even having played a game. And the Raiders avoided any scrutiny. Now, these are some of the headlines out of the Tigers-Raiders game. This is how they covered it on NRL 360. Relief for fans as West Tigers go back-to-back, as you just said, focusing on the West Tigers. Benji's Young Guns deliver for Under Siege coach. Focus on Benji. Tigers Young Guns smash Raiders at Campbelltown. Finally, a mention of the Raiders, but the story doesn't focus on the Raiders at all. It's focused on the Tigers Young Guns. Galvin scores double in Tigers' second win in a row.
Future model.
This was the focus of NRL 360 the day after the Raiders lost. So giving it to the Warriors, giving it to the Sea Eagles, giving it to the Eels, who didn't even play on the weekend, had a bye, as I said. I know they're last, but it wasn't their doing on the weekend. They had the bye. But the Raiders, yet again, under Ricky Stewart, avoiding any sort of scrutiny on a show with journalists who are just sycophants of Ricky Stewart. They just pander to him. They never hold him accountable. And this was another example of these journalists turning a blind eye to Ricky Stewart and the Raiders.
So the Raiders have this run. They got to play the Storm this weekend. So they're going to have 4 in a row losses. No, 3 in a row. They beat the Dolphins. Yeah.
That's the thing. I mean, they ignore it when they lose to the Tigers. So if they ignore that, well, they're going to ignore all their losses.
Yeah. They've got to play the Warriors, Rabbitohs. Rabbitohs are coming good. Bulldogs, Sea Eagles, Cowboys, Panthers, Roosters, Dragons. I'm really curious to see what they're going to do because it's possible from what I understand, it's possible for the Raiders to get the wooden spoon depending on all of the results. I mean, it's highly unlikely because please, Titans, West Tigers, and Eagles at this point. But you know they've won 7, lost 7. They got to play the Storm this week. They're going to drop even further down.
Surely for the Raiders this year, it's not. For me, it's not even about whether they make the 8 or not. I mean, in 2022 they made the 8, but they got hammered by Parramatta in week 2 of the finals. They went. I think it was 40-4. They got hammered. Last year they lost in week 1 of the finals and went out. And, to me, for them, it's about contending for the title. That's what it's about. Anything short of that is not good enough.
They re-signed Ricky for 5 years.
Until the end of 2029.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. And she's just got all the friends and all the players love him and stuff like that. I asked Craig Gower about it when he was here the other day, and he said, Ricky really has a lot of loyalty to his players, and that's why they'll always defend him. And I'd say he must be the same way with the journos. Just a lot of loyalty to them, probably gives them everything they want, and so they don't do anything to him. But
he must background them for feed stories.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Raiders suck, and they're just going to continue to suck, and they're going to go down further.
I'd imagine it'd be that he'd background them, he'd feed stories to them. I'd imagine he'd grant them really good access to players as well.
You got to think if they miss the 8, which they undoubtedly will. And they slide, and then next year they slide. Is Ricky Stewart's job in any danger? Probably not, because part of the coaches getting sacked is also that the media talk about them.
Yeah.
And the clubs, again, Craig Gower mentioned, with the Rabbitohs, the clubs and the management have to take attention off themselves. So the media bags the coach, and the club and everyone can get rid of the coach. If the Raiders continue on this downward slide and suck more and miss the 8, who are you going to blame? Well, the media never talks about them.
And maybe one thing we haven't touched on yet is maybe the fact that they're in Canberra, that helps Ricky as well, in that a lot of people just don't care about the Canberra Raiders. They're not a Sydney club. They're not a high-profile club. a lot of people just couldn't care less about them, and I think that helps Ricky as well. If he was he's been at clubs in the past who have huge supporter bases, like, well, Parramatta, for example, he was only there for 1 year, won the spoon and got sacked. If he was at a high-profile Sydney club and failing, well, there'd be nowhere to hide. But I think the Raiders, as a club in such a small city, doesn't have many supporters. I think that helps him as well, in that no one really cares about the Raiders, and therefore Ricky gets a lot of leeway.
Well, every team has fair weather fans, and the fact that they don't have many supporters is because they suck. if they won more, they'd probably have more fans in Canberra. They're the only there's the Brumbies or something in Canberra.
Yeah, the rugby union.
So there's probably like 8 people, 8 people, and they're all politicians who watch them.
Public servants.
Yeah,
yes.
So yeah. Now, we know that Wayne Bennett is going to the Rabbitohs next year. Now he's getting all the credit for the Rabbitohs improving, even though Ben Hornby is the current coach.
Yes.
So, I believe the Rabbitohs have signed some players, let go of some players. Yeah, Damien
Cook's gone to your Dragons. We know that. But it's even gone as far as, I mean, there's reports that... there's reports have emerged last week that Bennett's been in discussions with Ben Hornby, urging him to shift Keon Koloamatangi from the edge to the middle. So I think, to be honest, this is crossing a line. He's contracted to the Dolphins this year. They're paying him a reported $1.1 million salary. They're currently 5th on the ladder.
Yep.
They're trying to reach the finals for the first time in their history. The Rabbitohs all of a sudden are emerging as a team that could even make the way they're going. They could even charge for the top 8 this year. So it's you could even have a scenario later on in the year. Again, there's still a long way to go here. There's a lot of the season to go. We could have a scenario later on where the Rabbitohs are challenging the Dolphins for a spot in the top 8. The Dolphins are paying him a reported $1.1 million salary. They should expect his full attention this year. He's their employee this year. He's not the Rabbitohs coach until next year. If I was a Dolphins supporter, I'd be furious that he's on the phone to Ben Hornby saying, you need to move Keon Koloamatangi here or there this year to get the best out of it.
As soon as he signed, that's what I said would happen. Dragons fans speak from experience. We know that's what happens. As soon as he signs, he starts looking at next year, and it starts out a little bit, a couple of phone calls and stuff, and then it becomes staff, recruitment, everything. He prepares for next year in advance. And more and more, you're going to see it more and more and more over the next, 10 weeks left in the year. What are we at?
I'm pretty sure it's round 17 this week.
Yeah, so
I'm pretty sure.
10 weeks left in the year. You're going to see it more and more over the next almost 3 months, 2.5 months, where Wayne Bennett concentrates more and more on the Rabbitohs and the Dolphins going for a slide. In 2011, the Dragons were top of the ladder when Wayne Bennett signed, and then lost a whole bunch of games at the end of the year. They would come off the premiership. 2009, they were arguably the best team in the comp. 2010, they were the best team in the comp. 2011, for the first half of the year, they were the best team in the comp. And then Wayne Bennett signed and paid less and less attention to the Dragons, and they went more and more and more on a slide. And then he told them apart, and it's taken him 14 years to rebuild. And that's the danger of letting Wayne Bennett go, and he's going to do it to the Dolphins, and you're going to see it more and more. History shows you're going to see it more and more.
The Rabbitohs have now won 4 games in a row. Latrell Mitchell's found form now.
Yeah,
the Rabbitohs are on the charge. They could be competing with the Dolphins for a spot in the 8. And if that happens, well, that'll be very interesting.
Do they play each other for the rest of the year? Yeah, they play each other in 3 weeks. 11th of July.
No, I mean, there's an argument where as soon as Bennett signed with South for next year, at that point the Dolphins should have sacked him on the spot. Yeah. Sack him on the spot. It's Christian Wolf to take over. If you don't want to install him straight away, we'll put another assistant in charge and let him get his house in order before next year. Otherwise, just install Christian Wolf now.
Because it's not the same situation where your team is dead and then you get your assistant coach to take over. It's the team is leading, and you just continue on with the current systems for the rest of the year. But he already signed Ewan Aitken, I believe, was the player that's gone from the Dolphins to the Rabbitohs. Yeah, it's going to keep continuing, and it's terrible. So yeah, well. Watch Dolphins go on a slide and Rabbitohs go on a ladder. Snakes and ladders. And for the rest of the year, 3 more months. It was 10 weeks to go, and I guarantee you that's what's going to happen. Now, this came out after the Bulldogs lost. Lost. Now,
yes.
This is just a kind of an internet rumor that's still going, still persisting, and it was reported by a couple of Bulldogs, by a couple of not major news thingies, but so after the game, the loss on the weekend where the Bulldogs got pumped by the Roosters, a lot of and I have seen evidence of this on the internet. A lot of Bulldogs fans started giving abuse and criticisms to some of the Bulldogs players. I think Hutchinson was a major target. And so there's reports that 2 Bulldogs players have temporarily deactivated their social media accounts because of the abuse from fans, private messaging and so on and so forth. First of all, Jesus Christ. Like, 2 weeks... that's what I'm in a couple of Bulldogs Facebook fan groups. As well as other clubs and stuff. And I have seen mods have to step in and say, like, delete comments and stuff like that. And say, like, 1 week ago you were all really happy and just full of praise and we were the best team in the comp and all this kind of stuff. And then just like after one loss in which players are out, our captain is out, there's a major reshuffle forced by Bronson Xerri was... injured, and Matt Burton had to move to centres, I believe.
Yeah, and it was because I think it was also because Crichton was missing for Origin availability, so they thought, well, let's. It was actually Matt Burton's idea. He went to Cameron Serrato and said, well, should I play in the centres? I mean that they had an off game. It happens. They'd won 3 in a row before that. But yeah, this abuse from these fans on social media, I would just say to players, look, just delete your account. Don't have social media. I know some people think, oh yeah, but then you're running away from it. You shouldn't. But I'll tell you what, I'd rather not have social media than have to put up with the abuse.
So I
have to choose between the two.
Talked to some professional athletes I know, and I asked them about this as part of this, right? And they told me that solution doesn't work in today's day and age because of third-party sponsorships. And third, you have to maximise your earning potential off the field as well, and especially in post your career. And you need active and engaged social media audience because then third-party sponsors will basically they ask, what's your social media following? They check your social media before they'll be able to sponsor you. So it's really sucky. Like they have to be, The only solution to avoid the abuse is to deactivate your social media. Social media is one of those things that's a necessary evil if you want to be famous, to get endorsements, especially if you're an athlete. And these people that abuse them, like I've seen it. I saw people calling for Serraldo to be sacked after the loss. Like, he clearly doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know how to handle missing players. Like, it's one game. Yeah. Rugby league fans have a 1 week memory, and you
need to look at the overall. Okay, they got thrashed by the Roosters. Okay, they had an off night. But you need to look at the overall picture. After 14 games, they're 7 wins, 7 losses. If you had have offered that to me at the start of the season, I would have taken it in a heartbeat. This is a much improved team that is sitting 6th on the ladder at the moment.
Still with the second best defensive, and at one point they were the best.
You need to not let one-off results cloud your judgment too much. You still need to view it as an overall picture. Looking at the overall picture, they're a much improved team on last year. They're 6th on the ladder. This is a team that missed the finals for 7 straight years before this year, and now they're in contention again. So just hold your horses before you're calling for the coach to be sacked just because of one game.
It's so ridiculous. Like straight after the game, coach needs to be sacked, and there was a lot of abuse leveled at Hutchison, and now there's a lot of criticism because apparently the Bulldogs have met with Chad Townsend. A lot of criticism there. I've seen this, Cameron Serrato is a terrible coach, and it's clearly someone else is managing the team and making them go good every time he gets any control or anything.
But I don't know
why they're crazy.
I mean, they're still looking for a halfback. They're still short in that area.
They don't have a halfback.
While they are an improved team, they're not the finished product. And yes, they still don't have a halfback. So what's wrong with talking to someone like a Chad Townsend? He's a premiership winning halfback.
He'd be good for them in that role where it'd be, premiership winning, senior halfback that can come in, because the Bulldogs have Blake Taff, Toby Sexton, who are both up-and-coming playmaking type players, and Phil Gould tweeted or something that they're considering turning Blake Taff into a half. You've talked about it before. He looks like more of a half than a fullback. So bringing in a senior like Chad Townsend, who's at the back end of his career, that can mentor and teach those guys how to run games, that's the kind of thing that was missing for players like Mitch Moses, who had all the potential in the world, and now he's in he's like 12th or 14th year, and you see what he is now. But that could have been something that he was like much earlier if he had that mentorship. I think Chad Townsend would actually be a great signing for the Bulldogs, to be honest. It's like when Nathan Feen came over to the Dragons in 2008, and they used him to mentor guys like Jamie Soward, who went on to play Origin.
Well, you got to look at who do the Bulldogs have at halfback now? Well, Drew Hutchison. Is Chad Townsend a better option than Drew Hutchison? Yes, he is. So talking to Chad Townsend is not a bad option at all for the Bulldogs. Sorry, just getting back to that. So you're saying that it's not really an option for players to delete their social media?
No, I mean, of course you can delete your social media, but it's something to help maximise your revenue.
Right, yeah.
Maximise your earning, earning.
So what do you think the solution is then for players?
I still think the actual solution to all social media issues is people have to upload their ID to sign up for social media.
Right. Aside from that, is there anything else players could sort of
disable comments? Well, or you can do like the Joe Rogan says. You don't have to disable it.
Don't look at them.
Post and ghost.
But don't look at them.
Post and ghost. Don't respond. You don't need to respond to comments actually on social media. Post and ghost. Just go. Post and ghost. You can set settings so people can't private message you anyway.
Yeah, do that.
That kind of thing.
Do that.
I know you want to engage
better than
with
looking at the comments.
Yeah, I know you want to engage with the fans and you want to see people giving you good compliments, but the bad so outweighs the good so much. It's just not worth it. Post and ghost, bro. Post and ghost. Finally, with the NRL, obviously Parramatta is looking for a coach, and Jason Riles is the next big up and comer in coaching. Mm-hmm. He was meant to take over Melbourne next year, but Craig Bellamy extended and seems to want to extend for the rest.
Keep extending.
He'll never catch Wayne Bennett, who's about to hit 9,000 coach games, and it's not possible for Craig Bellamy to do that unless he extends for like 10 more years. Yeah. But so now Jason Riles is looking for a coaching gig, and the other person to take who's being heavily considered is Dean Young, who's currently an assistant coach at St George. Mm-hmm. I believe, yes, St George. So that's Ben Hornby, Jason Riles, Dean Young, a lot of St George players running around the coaching.
Yeah, a lot of your Dragons are getting a look in here,
but I honestly still think the best coaching option for Parramatta is Brad Arthur.
Well, he did make a grand final 2 years ago. Ricky hasn't made one for 5 years, and Ricky got re-signed until the end of 2020.
I wouldn't want to be a new coach. I know new coaches have to take their jobs where they can get them. I wouldn't want to be a new coach taking over Parramatta. And I hope that Dean Young and Jason Riles seriously... Like, Jason Riles, I think, should just stick it out and wait. The longer he waits at Melbourne, the more guaranteed he is of taking that over. You know, and that's a team that you want to take over. Craig Bellamy retiring, take over his thing. Not Craig Bellamy pulling a Wayne Bennett and moving to another club and ruining your club and like leaving you in a shithole. Like, you know, Christian Wolf is just the next in that long line of destroyed by Wayne Bennett coaches. But, you know, taking over, retiring Craig Bellamy is the key. And yeah, Dean Young, I think he should hang out with Shane Flanagan for a few more years to see how to rebuild a team. Because Dean Young's been at St George for a while. No one's been able to rebuild that team.
So which way do you think the Eels will go here?
I reckon Jason Riles is probably the option that most teams would go for. You know, it was like when who was the guy Garth whatever that went to the Titans.
Garth Brennan?
Yeah, he was the one that was like the hot seat one that everyone wanted. And then Cameron Serrato was another one. Everyone wanted best up-and-coming coach. Craig Fitzgibbons was one. Jason Riles is that current guy. So Parramatta's probably going to lean in that direction. But, you know, it's Jason Riles versus Dean Young. Two old teammates each other. It's great. But, yeah, seriously, if I was Dean Young, I wouldn't go to Parramatta and think I can rebuild that team and build them back up. I'd stay with Flano, watch him rebuild the Dragons, take away from that, like, so this is how you rebuild a team. And then he could go to a club like that. Because, yeah, that's one of the things that happens a lot, actually. Like, clubs suck, teams suck, they need to be rebuilt. And they bring in a coach, like a fresh new coach. But that coach hasn't sat under a rebuild. Whereas someone like Cameron Ciraldo sat under Nathan Cleary rebuilding Panthers into what they are. And whoever was before. Who was before Nathan Cleary?
Oh, Ivan Cleary, sorry. Griffin.
Yeah, Griffin.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. I was just gonna, just before we move on from rugby league, I'll just clear up one thing about the Bulldogs is Toby Sexton's actually been the halfback in the last few weeks. He's replaced Hutchison in that position. But either way, I mean, you'd take Chad Townsend over Toby Sexton or Drew Hutchison.
But it'd be great to have Chad Townsend there to mentor both of them.
It would, but given a choice of the three, I'd take Chad Townsend. Yeah.
So in cricket news, basically the news is over. Australia's out, so we don't need to talk about cricket anymore.
Yeah, look, disappointing. Very disappointing for Australia not to reach the semi-final stage.
Yeah. So they lost to Afghanistan and then lost to India and needed Bangladesh to beat Afghanistan.
Afghanistan won on the Duckworth-Lewis. So, there was some controversy. One of the Afghanistan players appeared to suffer a hamstring injury, and there was thinking that, well, because Afghanistan were ahead on Duckworth-Lewis at the time, that he was milking it, because there was rain around, milked it to hope that it would start raining again, and then Afghanistan would win because they'd be ahead on Duckworth-Lewis at that time. And it was Adam Zampa, the Aussie star, who quipped that it was the old rain string, referring to his hamstring. But I'm not buying that. Australia lost 2 out of their 3 Super 8 games. It's their fault that they're not in the semi-finals. Don't go blaming Afghanistan for milking the clock on a hamstring. Come on.
We talk about it every year with rugby league, AFL, every single ongoing competition where you hit to the end of the year, and when you start talking about they can still make it on the mathematics, man, your season's over. And that was like the World Cup is obviously a lot shorter. Australia's still being able to make it on mathematics, bro. Yeah. Don't rely on other teams to lose and win.
Australia lost to Afghanistan. Yeah. Okay, that's where they didn't make the semi-final. Yeah. That's a game they should have won. The India result wouldn't have mattered if they had done what they were supposed to do and beaten Afghanistan. They didn't do it, and that's where they didn't qualify for the semi-finals. Yeah, you can concentrate on relying on other teams to avoid a wooden spoon. Okay? Sit there and death ride people and go, oh, we can still avoid the wooden spoon if someone else loses. Please let someone else lose. But making the finals is entirely on you. Okay? Yeah. Like every time you lose a game and earlier in the series and you don't make the finals and then try and blame someone else, no, you should have won that game. That's all it is. You should have won that other game. And they should have beat Afghanistan. They could have beat India. Either of those two things, they would have been into the finals. You look at the group. The group was India, Afghanistan, Australia, and Bangladesh. Common sense goes, all right, India and Australia progress in that group.
Yeah, exactly.
The result of India and Australia does not matter because they'll both beat Afghanistan and Bangladesh, and they'll both go through. Australia lost to Afghanistan. That's where Australia didn't make the semi-finals.
You want to have a whine about it? Next time, play better and win. That's boring cricket. That's the boring type of cricket. Yeah, T20 is the most boring type of cricket. Now we're going to see India win the T20 World Cup.
Yeah, so it's I had the semi-final matchups there. I think it's I had them written down here somewhere. I'm pretty sure it's South Africa playing Afghanistan. I think that's on at the moment.
Afghanistan is 3 for 20
against South Africa.
South Africa, 3.3 overs gone.
Yeah, and the other semi is India against England.
Yeah.
And that's tomorrow morning at 12:30 a.m. I believe.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So there's not a single team in there that I want to win. Maybe Afghanistan. I'm on the Afghanistan bandwagon, boys. Let's go Afghanistan. And in other news, in tennis, Wimbledon starts on Monday night.
Yes.
Very exciting time. Don't know who's going to win it this year.
Yeah, I guess that the main focus at the moment is on whether Novak Djokovic is going to play in this tournament. Of course, he had knee surgery less than 3 weeks ago in Paris. So it's sort of doubtful at the moment whether he's going to play. Hasn't been officially ruled out yet. On Sunday, the ATP Tour reported that Djokovic was withdrawing from Wimbledon, but the post was deleted a short time later, so that's interesting. Read into that what you will. He's won it 7 times, Djokovic. So, it's a pretty, he hasn't had much success this season. Djokovic hasn't won either of the first 2 majors. And you're sort of looking at this one going, well, this is his big chance. This is the Wimbledon Centre Court and the Australian Open Centre Court are 2 of his very happy hunting grounds. And, but yeah, it looks like his participation might be in doubt here.
Yeah, well, that's the kind of thing where he probably needs to go away for a little while and reset himself, which he does sometimes, has done in his career, and maybe come back stronger. But he's reaching the end of his career, and all these new guys are coming up like Sinner and Alcaraz, and we talked about it many, many times.
Yeah,
it's a bit like tennis, man. Like, with 3 days away, and they still haven't confirmed the people. But there are so many tennis players.
Every chance.
There are so many tennis players who will just jump at the chance and be on a plane within 10 minutes if they get their call up. So see what happens. Starts on Monday, finishes 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
And it'll be an interesting...
Run for 2 weeks, and then by the time that's over, we'll be getting close to the Olympics, getting underway in about a month's time.
I wonder if Djokovic will play in the Olympics. I don't even know if there's tennis in it or how.
Yeah. Well, the Olympics are going to be played. They're in Paris, so they're going to be played on the clay of Roland Garros. That's why Rafael Nadal is skipping Wimbledon. He didn't want to go back and play on the grass and then go back to the clay at the Olympics. So that's the reasoning. That's the logistics behind Nadal skipping Wimbledon. He doesn't want to go back to the grass and then back to the clay. He wants to stay practicing on the clay ahead of the Olympics. The Olympics could be his swan song, could be the final curtain on his career, so he'll be wanting to go out with a strong showing at the Olympic Games on his favourite clay of Roland Garros. So.
I think I'm most interested in for the Olympics. I don't care about the tennis. I don't care about...
it shouldn't be in the Olympics, tennis.
I don't care about the shooting, which I normally watch. I don't even care about the wrestling.
Dancing.
I just want to watch the breaking.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
I really want to watch that. Don't care about anything else. Wrestling, judo, nothing. Taekwondo, no, breakdancing. I'm very pumped for it. And so that's it for the news around the world today. Up the Blues, the mighty Blues.
Yes.
Onto our social media, Blowerupperers. Just a couple of comments, because we did have a big delay between podcasts. Some of the comments, like Vic, made some good comments, but they're kind of out of date now.
Dated,
but I did want to bring this one up from Andrew Turk, who's commented before. Hi, Andrew. New South Wales will not win too many Penrith bullheads in the side. Well, that aged well.
Yeah.
Some of those Penrith bullheads kind of smashed it.
To be fair to him, he did write that before the game.
Yeah, he did, of course.
A lot of us do look silly after the fact.
And then the general, if Bennett takes the Dolphins to the top 4, he's a Dally M Coach of the Year contender too. Well, most improved.
Well, maybe he's a Dally M Coach of the Year contender because he's coaching 2 teams.
Yes, and I can't. That's one of the things they should say. This coach embodied the true spirit of coaching by taking a team to the finals in their second year.
The first coach ever to take
as well as
take 2 teams to the finals in 1 year.
To take a team to the finals in their second year, as well as taking a team from the bottom of the ladder into the finals.
Yeah, I'm with the general there. I think he's got a point there.
Yeah, well, it is true, actually. If he does make the finals with the Dolphins in just their second year. It's their second year, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. That's something that will most improve. But, I always think the Coach of the Year should be just whoever comes first.
Whoever wins the premiership.
The minor premiership. Well, because
that's
before
what they
the
do. In the AFL, they give the Jock McHale medal to the premiership coach.
Yeah, it's like... But if the Dally M's is before for the grand final, right?
It is, but they could just do the same thing.
Yeah.
Right?
It's so dumb.
Give a medal. Name a medal, you could name it the Jack Gibson medal or the Wayne Bennett medal, or
because it's kind of offensive, to be honest, the medal, because it's like it is the most improved medal, and it is always like you took this really crappy team that another coach had. It's always like that. Yeah. It's never like, if Wayne Bennett was to do it this year, it'd be second year, but it just seems to always be like, your team was really crap and you took over and then you took them into the 8. And so here's a medal. So you're criticising the previous team and the previous coach by giving the guy a medal.
But shouldn't it just go to... there's an argument for, giving it to the premiership winning coach, but shouldn't it just go to the coach who overachieves the most based on their playing roster? And that's not the same as most improved, is it?
No, that's very different, because that'd be like, say, if the Titans made the 8, Des Hazard deserves a medal.
I would have thought you give it to the coach who overachieves the most with their roster.
I think that's a perfect example. If the Titans were to make the 8 year, given their roster, he's coach of the year, for sure. They're not going to make the 8, but if they were to make the 8, that's that's it for the week. Don't forget to sign up to @SmartB app and subscribe if you're into horse racing for the Smart Odds comparison, where you can get odds on over 50 bookmakers. Listen to the SmartB Racing Update podcast with Bryson Lewis every Friday for tips over the weekends for racing. Follow @SmartB app on all socials and watch out for the trivia questions each week to win 2 regular season ticket games, 2 tickets to any regular season game for any sport. Donna Steele won the first one and wants to go to the last home game for Penrith this year. So we'll get those tickets out to you soon. Donna, have a good weekend of football. Are the Bulldogs playing?
Yeah, I think they've got the Sharks tomorrow night.
That's it. Yeah, they do. They have the Sharks, and the Dragons are playing someone difficult.
Dragons have got the Dolphins, who we've talked about a bit today on Sunday.
Better get their revenge. All right, have a good weekend, man, and I'll see you next week.
Thanks, John. See you Monday.
Bye, producer No One. Stacked up chairs. Bye, everybody.